Okay, so because we're inside of a surface, I hope we were able to actually get the color, or at least be able to change the background color. It's very simple. If you hover over surface, you will find the color argument or color parameter there. Okay. So after shape, which is here really, I can just go say comma and say color. And in this case here, I have a color I found on the internet, the hex code for it. And I'm just going to go ahead and pass here. Okay, it's very simple. So first we start with by saying 0x to say this is a hex color, and then I'm going to put FF, and then I'm going to just start typing E 9D and then 7F D7 F7, I believe that's the color. Very good. All right, there we go. And you can see in the gutter here it shows the color. If you click here, of course you can change the color from here as well. That's really neat. So once you add a color, you can always come to the gutter here and click and play with that color. All right, let's go ahead and refresh real quick. We should see the change. And there you go. Looks really good. Okay, so now let's go back to our column. So this is where we are going to focus on adding these two texts really. So the total per person, and then where we will have the total amount. So it is going to be in a column because we said the structure here is top to bottom. Everything is aligned from top to bottom, right? One after the other. So a column would work. Okay, so let's go ahead and start putting text here. And for now, I'm just going to say total per person. Copy that because another text. And this is going to be, I always say it's nice to put the named arguments. It's always a good idea. I'm going to say text again, like that. And this one, I'm going to say 134. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look. And you can see it's very small, but there it is. You can see it says total per person. But it's not necessarily where we want it to be, because we want this to be in the middle of the screen. How do we do that? Inside of our column here, we can specify the horizontal alignment as well as the vertical arrangement. And there's a difference in naming here. So we've got to be very mindful of that. But before we do that, we need to pass, we could, if we wanted to, pass a modifier, because modifier is always usually the first argument to pass. And order is very important. So let's start with modifier, and I want just to say padding all around inside here. I just want to give about 12.dp. All right, so once I have that, let's move on to say horizontal and start typing alignment. I'm going to say alignment, and I want this to be horizontally, center horizontally like that. And also I want vertical arrangement. Notice the naming here is different. It's not, again, alignment. Now it's arrangement because we are arranging things vertically. Okay. Now I want this to be center as such. So if I refresh now, we should make sure, or should see, hopefully, the text is going to be in the middle. All of the text, which are the contents inside of our column, they should all be in the middle of the top header. And there you have it. It looks really good. It's in the middle there. The next thing we want to do is, of course, do some styling in our text here. Well, we can go inside of each one of them. In this case, the text, the first one that says total per person, and we can do a few things. Is I'm going to put a comma, and then next, if you hover over again, if whenever you are in doubt, you can hover over to see what arguments we can pass. So there's a lot of things we can pass: font size, font style, and so forth. Now, again, we can also pass, if I say, for instance, style, of course, that is one of the parameters or arguments in this case. I can say text style and start passing all of these parameters, arguments inside of text style. Or if I want to facilitate my life and I want to use the material, I want to use the theme of this app, I can say material like this and get the theme object there and say dot, and I'm going to say colors, and I can choose all these different colors if I want to, or I can just say dot typography and get different typographies, sizes, and style. You can see to the right here, these are indeed text styles. So it's very helpful, okay? Now in this case, I would just want this to be a little bit larger, so maybe H4, and we can always come and change, of course. And then for the next one, make maybe this H5. And for the next one here, I'm going to say style again. Pass in material theme and typography. And let's say H4, so a little bit larger than the previous one. Let's refresh. Okay, that looks really good. Very similar to what we have here. One thing you notice is that this text here is bolder than the previous one, right? So we can still work on this. There's nothing that is that will hinder us from doing that. So I can come afterwards. I can say, for instance, font weight, right? And say font weight, or I can just go ahead and start typing bold, right? You can see now it's going to go and get the variables. Going to go ahead and get these variables here, bold, extra bold. Let's use extra bold as such. Now if you refresh, you can see that you will see, hopefully in a second here, the changes. There we go, 134. Looks way, way better. Just like these, what do we have here? So simply you can see how easy it is really to build user interfaces using with Compose. And the beauty of what we did here, which is to organize or to look at our app, the overall application in smaller chunks, it's really helpful. Because if you are starting and you look at something like this, I know this is very simple, it's a very simple application, but you can imagine how daunting that could be, because you look at it, all of this, and you're thinking, oh my goodness, there's a lot of work to do here. Yes, there is, but if you split things into smaller chunks, it's manageable and it's easier, and you feel like you are making progress as you build these smaller chunks. You'll notice that obviously this price here, this number, this amount will change dynamically. And we go back to the idea of what composable functions do. The idea is that they're kind of reactive to the data they receive, right? They get the data and they know, okay, how am I going to draw myself to show this data that I'm receiving, right? So that tells us that then this top header here, we should pass that data, right? Because this is going to be called somewhere we don't know, and we need to pass the data, which is going to be this amount, okay, which is going to be calculated by somebody or some other function that we don't know, and display it here, right? All this function will know, this composable function will know, is that I need some data. I don't know who's going to give it to me. I don't know where is it going to come from. I don't know how to calculate whatever results from that data. All I need is just that information, the piece of data. So here I'm going to put a total per person like this, and it's going to be a double. And because I want to still be able to see the preview, I'm going to set it to 0.0, right? This is default argument. All right. Now I'm going to call this somewhere. I'm going to call that inside here. Okay, let's go ahead and refresh. All right, there you go. We see we have 0.0. Now I can append the $sign like this, and that should probably make it look better, like that. Now, if you look at our number here, we have 2 decimal digits there. So how do we do that? Well, we can use the power of Kotlin here and format this number that when it comes in so that we have 2 decimal digits there. Okay, so to facilitate everything, I'm just going to create a val here called total, and it's going to be, I'm going to pass here this very strange looking code, if you will. So what are we doing here? I'm going to put percentage and put dot to F. So what we're doing here is that then we're going to invoke the format function, right? And pass, of course, in this case, our total per person value. So what we're doing here is that when we get this total per person value, we're going to format it so that it has 2 decimal digits, I should say. Let's actually change this to 133 at 0. We should call total here. and we should solve the problem. We should see 134.00. And there you have it. Okay, small things, but they do matter. All right, so we're making good progress. In fact, I would argue that we are done with our top header as it is right now. So now that we have our top header is all done, we can actually call it in our content inside of our My App. All right, so I can get rid of this top header, and we don't have to pass anything because we have a default value there for double. And at this point, we could run on our emulator if we wanted to. I'm going to set up my phone here. So I'm going to go ahead and run. If you want, you can run that, of course, on an emulator that comes with Android, but I have my phone that is connected. And there you have it. This is actually running on my phone right now. Okay, so it's looking real good. Of course, we will put all of this together and make it look even better with other components, with other composable functions there. But at least you can see things are working fine.